So we're back in the layout room. Not much to change. I mean, it's been a while since the last video. Relatively, I guess to you might have been months, to me maybe longer, I don't know. But it's just a more bigger mess here because I was doing other things and getting more stuff. You know, as Heath like to say, I have a problem. We all have a problem when you have more bags of trains. But today we are talking about lights, and it's, you can see the double deck here. That's always, at least in my opinion, a problem to light. Over these years, I guess I've discovered that I actually hate double deck layouts. It's a nuisance that you have to accept and deal with if you want to have a longer run. I envy people who have more space to have a single deck. Other people probably envy me for having this much space to even have a double deck or a single deck, because they probably have less. So, it's the old thing in model railroading, there is never enough space. In any case, lighting is always an issue with double decks, because you have a main deck, let's say the middle one, and then you have to somehow light it up so that you don't get shadows or anything else, and then you have the upper deck, and are they evenly spaced, and is the upper deck protruding more than the lower deck, then you have better illumination but worse line of sight. If it's inset like here, then the lights don't end up illuminating the front of the layout, and you have shadows from the, I guess, light from the back or shadows from the front, and then it does look nice, and you can't really read the numbers or letters on your cars and stuff, and unless you have illumination in the aisle, then you can solve that, but not when you have a ceiling that's 6'4" or 5 and you're 6'3" like I am. Then you have another problem. In any case, I've spent, I don't know, a couple $100 in a month or so of gathering all kinds of supplies from our friends in China, from AliExpress. It's a wonderful place. You can get anything there. And, they have full spectrum LEDs, natural white, warm white, bright white, 1, 3, 10 watt, single strips, again, natural white and warm white, double row LEDs. I mean, like, you can find anything. These are COB LEDs, so chip on board. It's like one of those continuous strips that doesn't show you where the LEDs are, so it's like a one continuous line. It's nicer. I mean, it's a more modern or newer technology than the previous LED strips that we had, like in the last, I don't know, 5 years or 10, when you have single 20/20 or 50/50 SMD LEDs, and then you can actually see them. I think even these ones are single LEDs, but because they have this, I guess, whatever coating or I guess some kind of a lens or plastic that does lensing effect, and it unifies the light. In any case, I've been experimenting with illuminating figuring out or trying to figure out how I'm going to illuminate this layout. In my previous layout in N-scale, and if you watch back some videos from that, you can see that it was a single deck about that high, and then the lights were at the ceiling. These lights I had, these are like 4400 Kelvin, and they were pretty good. I mean, 35 watt for a 4 foot. They were very bright. The whole layout was really nicely lit. Like, I was really happy with it. Should not have tore it down, but hey ho. So I have those lights, and I have these LED strips and whatnot. And I was looking some videos when people, like Jerry Leone, he's using single LEDs, like 10 watt ones every 16 inches, and then to illuminate the layout, and he gets nice shadows and accented shadows, like whatever. In any case, I mean, I have now doubled the illumination that's required because you have 2 decks, and let's not forget staging. That needs to be illuminated somehow too. There are other concerns with illumination, like, well, do you have enough electricity, power, circuits for this? Because, I don't know, like, you know, on a single deck, this is 90 feet in circumference, right? Or entire length of the layout on single deck. So I have 180 feet altogether, plus the staging, whatever that is. And if each of these strips is, I don't know, 1 amp, 5 meters, that's 15 feet. So you have about 13 or 14 of these. Technically you need like 15 amps or single circuit for the lights alone. But you never go 15 amps on a 15 amp circuit. You can't overload it, so it needs to be 80%. So 12%, 12 amps. So then I guess you need to divide the load, and you get one of these Meanwell or whatever power supplies that outputs like, I don't know, 40 amps or 30 amps or 450 or 500 or 600 watts at these are 24 volts. So the thing with the LED strips is you have better illumination and less losses on a higher voltage, but on longer runs or any of the runs, the suggestion from the vendors is that you don't really power them from the ends, you power them from the middle. And then you know how then the current splits in both directions, and the voltage doesn't drop. Like from the beginning to the end, you would have maybe a volt drop or 2. In 24 volts, you know, it's sort of less noticeable than in 12. And so you go with the higher voltage and you need less amps to get the same power out, wattage-wise. Our friends in Europe have a better deal in general because their mains is 220 volts. Here with 120 volts in North America, you need more amps to drive any of these power supplies. Over there in Europe, they have 220 volts, so they need really half the power to drive what we need to drive here. And so that's another consideration. In any case, I've been experimenting with the lights, and so I have these LEDs hooked up, and in general I like what I see with these because this is how it was on the old layout, and it's very bright and everything looks just cool. I mean, cool as in nicely lit. Maybe it's even too bright. I mean, I don't know what the camera can see, but I'm saying what I can see is that, you know, everything is clear. And these are 4400 or 4100 Kelvin. But the problem with these, I don't have enough of these. I only have maybe 28 of 4 feet, and that's only enough maybe for 1 deck. Because remember, I need 180 feet on 2 decks. So 28 times 4 is only 110. So I'm short 70 feet, which almost like it's an entire deck short, or 3/4. The thinking was that maybe I can use these lights on the upper deck, and then since they're going to overhang, see, like if we look where the upper deck is inset, then if I put them at the edge, like here of the ceiling, then they will shine down onto the front of the lower deck, and then I won't have shadows from the back, or light from the back and then having shadows on the front. Sorry, I'm not pointing in the right direction. I was looking at the back here because I was going to say another thing. Then I could have another strip maybe in the middle of the middle deck or main deck to illuminate the rest of it. Well, let's just see. So these are nice and bright. I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but it looks very bright. So then I have 2 sets of strips here. One is bright white, 5000 kelvins, and one is 4000 kelvins. I bought the 2 specifically because 4000 was matching these 4-foot LED lamps, and so I figured if I get that, then I can see how that matches. So if I hook them up, so this is a single strip, and I think this is the warm white or natural white, 4000 Kelvin. To me, this doesn't look bright enough. And by the way, here is how the chip on board looks. So you don't really see the LEDs. It's just one single line. To me, this doesn't look bright enough. It kind of looks bright, but it's not as bright as these lights. And I don't know, it just feels murky. I don't know. And then if I go with the 5000 Kelvin, then you can see that the light is cooler, and it might look a bit brighter, but I think that I prefer the warmer light. It's a preference of what you really like. They say that more than 4500 Kelvin is not really good for your eyes. That's what the science says. Or, doctors, optometrists, or whatever, ophthalmologists, or whoever is studying eyes. And so I guess if you have 4000, that's fine. But things look warmer with the other lights. This is gonna really cool down a lot. And I mean, I can read the numbers and everything else. It just kind of feels not bright enough. So if I connect both, then I get best of both worlds. And you can see now that you have the mixture of cooler and warmer, and the illumination is double, but you have like a better lit, and I guess the warmer gives it that feeling of, I don't know, I guess warmth. And then the cool white is just giving you the illumination. But with both of them, I mean, it's almost matching the LED lamps, like the 4-foot ones. And the difference now is that obviously you need double the strips, which means that you need double the power for this. So I've measured, and one of these, I think I've written there something. Yeah. So let's see if you can see that. This is what does it say here? This is the 4000 Kelvin. So it has 480 LEDs per meter, and this is a 5-meter strip. So we have about 2400 LEDs, and that takes at 120 volts 1.02 amps, right? So this warmer strip is drawing 1 amp of power. The cooler one has the same amount of LEDs, just 5000 Kelvin, and that one is drawing 0.77 amps. I don't know why. Why is that different? I guess even though they're both 24 volts and they're both supposed to be, this is 10 watts per meter and this is 15 watts. I guess that's why. In any case, you need about 2 amps of current at 24 volts, which is about 120 watts of power for 2 strips. This is a 350 watt power supply. And you can see how long is the strip. So I'll probably need another one to go around there and then to finish. So for the peninsula alone, I will need 3 pairs. Well, 3 pairs is, 2 amps, 2 amps, 2 amps, that's 6 amps just for the peninsula, just for the main deck, right? If I go illuminate the upper deck, then it's another 6 amps, that's 12, just for the peninsula. And then I have this side and that side. This side here is 22 feet wall to wall. The other side is probably, 18, because we have a helix here. I'm not going to illuminate a helix. So if you go up to here, that's probably, 18 feet. And then we have the alcoves, right? So I'm concerned that I'm going to run out of budget for the power. I only have 2 circuits here. Even though there is an electrical cabinet there, I guess I could tap into another circuit and stuff, but I just don't want to mess with that, because then I have to have an outlet someplace. I don't know. I have to make a hole in the wall. So that's all kinds of concerns that I'm like wrestling with now, and I don't know which direction to go. I kind of like this, and I was also thinking one more thing. if I put the warm white at the front and then cool white at the back, somewhere here, then it will illuminate. Sorry, if you illuminate the backdrop, it will here. So you'll have like that cooler light on your backdrop, which is really what you see in real world. The further you go away, the colors look cooler, right? It's further away. So the blues look cooler, the greens look like, when you look at the mountain ranges or hills and whatnot, they kind of turn from green into this bluish hue, right? And then, it gets bluer and bluer. It cools down. The stuff that's at the front is warmer, and that's how really you simulate the depth in a flat surface painting or whatever. Anything that's warmer is at the front, anything that's cooler is at the back. And that's just a artist, interpretation of the real world, but that's how the real world is, right? In any case, if I put it at the back, then my cool white will illuminate the backdrop, and I'll have I suppose, better simulation of the distance. Although, this is only 20 inches here, so I don't know, whatever. I was also thinking whether I should have day-night cycles, but I don't have the depth here that I wanted to have for real day-nights, because I wanted to have a light at the bottom here, close to my backdrop, and then I would have scenery offset or inset or outset, I suppose, or inset from the edge here another inch or two. So what would that accomplish is that when the light shines behind the scenery, between the backdrop and the scenery, you could really simulate that sunset or sunrise light, which is behind the horizon, right? You always have that illumination that you see when the sun is rising, or when it's before it's risen, or when it's setting, and that would be really cool. But I don't know, I guess I don't have the depth for that. And I know this was like a 17-minute rambling about just that. So if I bored you to tears, I'm sorry. That's what I'm wrestling with, and so you're on for the ride. It has to be done. I haven't done any backdrops yet because I want to figure out the lights, and I can't put the upper deck. I can't put the lights without the upper deck. I can't put the upper deck without the backdrops. I guess I should have worked on the backdrops first, but I didn't know how I'm gonna light them up and what they should look like, and painting backdrops after the fact might be hard. And that's the other thing I want to talk about backdrops, just to mention. I wanted to use a vinyl sheet. Like, you can buy a vinyl sheets for house flashing that you put like on the outside, and I thought maybe that's a convenient way of making a long backdrop that you can just slide through some, like one of those J channels. They have like these plastic long strips. They have a J channel that's like a J, right? And then you would line the vinyl flashing along there. Problem is that everything is now expensive, and so these vinyl strips or rolls are not available where I am in Canada. I have to buy them through eBay or something, or someplace from US. And as there is a trade war between US and Canada or something. I don't know what's wrong with everybody. So there are 25% tariffs on anything coming from US because it's our fault. So people are being penalized for it. But that's just stupid politics. I'm not gonna go into that. And I guess I dropped the idea of vinyl flashing because I can't buy it here, and the only thing I can get here is aluminum, and I think aluminum would be much harder to handle because it's metal. The other thing is vinyl. You just prime it, and then you can paint anything, and I wouldn't have to paint the backdrop in place. I would paint it someplace else outside, like a whole 20 feet or 40 feet or whatever. However much space I have, like I guess the way I did the wiring was I bought a roll of 250 feet of 4-wire speaker cable, and then I went down on my street, and then I unrolled 250 feet, and then I sliced it open, and then I pulled out 250 feet of each red, green, black, and white wires, colors, right? And then it's one of those summer afternoon projects. So same thing here, like just unroll it someplace where you have 50 feet, and then just paint blue and paint whatever mountain ranges or hills or whatever cities or something, I don't know, and then put it in place around here, and it will be just one continuous backdrop. There is no, connecting the joints and stuff and mudding and sanding and everything else that people normally do with hardboard. But I don't have it, so I guess it's gonna be hardboard. So I have some old hardboard, aka masonite or whatever, from the old layout, 1/8 inch. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna, I guess, notch into these brackets, whatever they are. And that's the other thing. I don't know where these brackets are gonna go. This is where they are right now, but I don't know should I keep them here or not. Because in some places on this deck, I had to add them more often. Like the original idea was every second upright. Well, what happened is that crappy plywood was not flat, so I had to put brackets more often to pull the plywood down and flatten it. And so I ran out of brackets. I had enough for both decks, and they're not cheap, so I had to buy more. And I think I still need to buy a couple of more, maybe like 4 or 5, because they didn't have everything in stock at the local big box store. Anyway, this is where we are. 20 minutes of rambling about lights and stuff that doesn't really, further the build, because we haven't done anything, and no trains are running because there is no wiring here. I'm going to talk about the wiring in another video, because that's a whole story on its own about LCC and Railcom and whatnot. So I still have to test these. I don't know if it's worthwhile trying any of these. I bought them anyways because they were cheap, 3 watt and 1 watt LEDs. So I suppose if I put them every 16 inches, or maybe these 10 watt ones, and these are neutral white, NW. I also bought this full spectrum white. I don't know what you get out of the full spectrum, because full spectrum is supposed to be, like from 400 nanometers to 660, right? So everything. But obviously, it's not probably full spectrum because it's RGB or whatever, however they generate. So, but it might be a nice illumination. It's just that when you have small lights like this, you have to have more often, and then becomes problem of wiring. Oh yeah, I don't know if you can hear that. That's a shitty power supply. I don't know if that's really Meanwell or it's a knockoff, because Meanwell normally doesn't break up like this and produces noises under load. The fan's kinda loud on it too when it turns on. Right now it didn't, because I don't know why. I guess it's cooler in here. So I'll wrap it up here. I've bored you to tears with nonsense for this. Oh, speaking of which, there is the fan. I guess we're wrapping up. So until next time, I'll upload this, and then we'll see what happens, if I figure out the lights or if I figure out the backdrops or something. Thanks for watching.